Hi everyone, my name is Terry Wessel and welcome to my May reading wrap-up where we'll discuss all things books. Books I've read this month, my anticipated reads, and book releases I'm most excited for. It doesn't matter if you're able to read half a book, 2 books, or even 20 books this month. All people are welcome on this channel and you certainly won't be judged by me. This month I was able to read 7 books and most of those were rated between a 4 and a 5 star, so it was a pretty good month for me. Out of those 7 books, 4 of them were romantasy, 2 of them were romance, and 1 of them was a YA thriller. From the books that I managed to read this month, only 3 of them were for my Panic at the Book Club reads, where I read a book every week and invite you to join along with me on whichever ones take your fancy. We read a wide range of genres and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Also, we announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, then I've linked the channel's intro video below where you can find out more information. If you're interested in a more in-depth discussion on any of the books that we do discuss in this video, then I'll also be linking those in the description. But for now, let's get back to it. My month started off with my favourite genre, romantasy book, Bride by Ali Hazelwood. And it was a fairly strong start to the month. I'm not afraid to admit that it did influence quite a few books that I read throughout May. You know, after reading a book, sometimes you just kind of want to stay in that world for a little while longer. That is the feeling that I got with this book. I rated this a 4.75 stars. Bride follows vampire Misery Lark as she's called upon to uphold a peacekeeping alliance with their mortal enemies, the Wares. The Wares are ruthless and unpredictable, and their alpha, Law Morland, is no exception. But Misery has her own reasons to agreeing to this marriage of convenience. I really enjoyed this one, I loved the characters, and there was a fairly solid storyline. To be expected with most vampire werewolf books, it was really cheesy, and it was kind of like the book equivalent of trash TV in the best way possible. That being said, I did have a couple of little issues that just weren't really for me. However, those didn't really affect my overall enjoyment of the book. It was spicy, cheesy, and it kept me gripped. This isn't the first Ali Hazelwood book to make it to my TBR, however, it is actually the first one I've read. Although after reading this one, I am more than happy to read more. I am a little bit cautious because I don't think this is the author's usual style. The next book we read I rated 4.25 and that was 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. I think this was a brilliant example of how people shouldn't underestimate YA books just because they're targeted to a young adult audience. 5 Survive follows 18-year-old Red and her friends as they take an RV on a road trip to the beach for spring break. Now, the drive is long, but spirits are high. That is until someone shoots out all 4 tires, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere. Someone out there is willing to kill to uncover one of their secrets. It was tense and it jumped into things pretty quickly, not to mention that it had an ending where things came together really nicely, and for a book that was set over such a short period of time, it did have really nice character development. I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so this wasn't my first Holly Jackson book and it certainly won't be my last. Next on our book club list was King of Wrath by Huang, and perhaps like some of her other books, this one was spicy, enemies to lovers, and it featured a morally grey love interest. This one got a 4.25 star rating from me. King of Wrath follows Vivian and Dante. Now, Dante never intended to marry, but under the threat of blackmail, he's forced into an engagement with Vivian, a woman he doesn't even know. Now, Dante will do everything in his power, not only to destroy the blackmail material, but to take his revenge. Vivian agrees to the arranged marriage out of a sense of duty to her family, but Dante isn't exactly her idea of a dream partner. I have more serious books that I would likely recommend to strangers and family, and then I have books like these, like King of Wrath, where I'm only really recommending these to people who know what they're in for, if you know what I mean. With these sort of books, you know what you're getting yourself in for. It's kind of the equivalent of daytime TV. It's easy to consume, a little bit cheesy, and not something that you're going to take too seriously. However, that doesn't mean I enjoy it any less. Sometimes that is all I want to read. This one was actually for next week's Panic at the Book Club episode, so you will have to wait to hear my full thoughts. But I think it's safe to say I will be continuing with the series. Anyway, that clears up all the books we read for book club. Usually we would do a book every single week, but I had a pretty busy month. What about any of the books that I managed to read in my spare time? Well, this month, probably because of how much I enjoyed reading Bride, I did go on a mini paranormal/fantasy romance binge, and I read the first 2 books in the Pheonix pack series, Feral Sins and Wicked Cravings. I had actually read some of the books from this series before, so it was a reread. However, that was quite a while ago and I didn't remember all that much about it, so these books did get a 4.5 star rating from me. The first book in the series, Feral Sins, follows female werewolf shifter Taryn. When Taryn encounters Trey Coleman, an alpha werewolf shifter with a dangerous reputation, she enters an uneasy alliance with him. If the two succeed in convincing their packs that they've chosen each other as true mates, then Trey will win political alliances while Taryn will escape an odious arranged mating. I've only read the next 2 books in the series before, but I believe that the remaining books all follow different characters within the same world, usually characters that have been in some of the previous books. If you did like Bride by Ali Hazelwood, then I probably would recommend this series. What I would say is that it does definitely have more spice, but it's still able to maintain a decent narrative. It is a series that I do intend to continue with when I do get the chance. Following that is a book I rated 3.75 stars out of 5, and that was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, and it is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. I did read Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass in April, but for those of you who haven't seen my April reading wrap-up, this is a fantasy series that follows assassin Selena Sardothian. During the book that you should definitely read first, Assassin's Blade, Selena finds herself and fellow assassin Sam deviating from their scheming master's orders, risking unimaginable punishment. They'll have to risk it all if they hope to escape his clutches, but if they fail, it won't only be their chances of freedom they'll lose. I did rate those 2 books 4 stars, so I'm not sure why I didn't rate Crown of Midnight as highly. There's not that much difference in the ratings, I just didn't feel like I enjoyed it as much. That being said, it ended in a way where I was much more hopeful for the next one, which I have already started. I think I probably will just read this whole series one after another, unless it gets to a point where I'm not enjoying it anymore, and then I'll probably try to continue with the ACOTAR series. I do listen to these on audiobook, so it does make it easier for me to read them while I'm going on a walk or even while I'm working. Last but certainly not least, I did a buddy read this month with fellow book girlie and friend Lauren. If you aren't already, I would strongly recommend that you follow her, so I will link her Instagram and TikTok below in the description. This month we read Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage, and I believe we both rated it 4 out of 5. Done and Dusted is a cowboy romance following Emmy as she suddenly leaves behind her career, apartment, and boyfriend in favour of her hometown she spent her whole life trying to escape. Luke Brooks is Meadowlark's most notorious bad boy and her brother's best friend. Totally off limits. But it's been years since they've seen each other, and as Emmy walks into his bar, he can't take his eyes off her. This was my first ever cowboy romance, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was super easy to read, it wasn't too cheesy when it came to the cowboy sides of things, and it had a fair amount of spice in it. It was fairly fast-paced, but in my opinion, I would have liked it to slow down a little bit. Occasionally, a huge chunk of time would be skipped, and I would have liked a little bit more detail because although I did think the characters were really cute, I didn't quite feel as connected to them as I would have liked. That being said, I still really enjoyed the book. Anyway, that concludes the list of books I've read this month, and it was a fairly decent list of books. Who knew that May would end up being such a spicy book month? As for next month's TBR, we have Godkiller by Hannah Kaner, we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and we have The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. I think I'll also probably read The Heir of Fire, which is the next in the Throne of Glass series. I would also like to read The Boy with the Haunted Heart, which is the second book in the Girl with No Soul series. This book did actually come out in May, however, I just did not get the chance to finish reading it. Other than that, let me know what you think. Is there anything you think I should add to my TBR? I know that Ali Hazelwood has yet another book coming out this month. Not in Love appears to be a forbidden romance. Ruin Ellis's affair is secret, no strings attached, and has a built-in deadline. For those of us who may be looking for something a little more thrilling, Lucy Foley has The Midnight Feast also coming out in June. As guests gather for the opening of Manor Hotel, something dark is stirring. The manor has a secret history, built in the shadows of an ancient wood. Now old friends and enemies are creeping out of the shadows. But let me know, are you excited for any books coming out this June? I may or may not have enjoyed purchasing a couple of new books in May. I went to Waterstones in Sheffield where I picked up these books. How stunning is this copy of The Last Murder at the End of the World? How beautiful is that lighthouse? Woo! Outside of the island, there is nothing. The world was destroyed by a fog that killed everyone it touched. When one of their beloved scientists is found brutally murdered, it triggers a lowering in the security system around the island, the only thing protecting them from the fog. If the murder isn't solved, the fog will smother the island and everyone on it. Solve a murder to save what's left of the world. We're actually doing this one for book club in June, so if you are interested, don't forget to send me your thoughts, comments, voice notes, or videos before the 24th of June. I also picked up this beautiful copy of Puzzle Wood by Rosie Andrews. Again, look at this stunning edges. Catherine is travelling in disguise to investigate the fate of the last governess at the remote Loxley Abbey, who took her own life out in the woods. For the governess was Catherine's own sister. Until now, she believed Emily had died years before, when they were children. Catherine has a very hazy recollection of her teen years and how Emily seemed to disappear from her life. I am hoping to do this one as part of book club soon. It seemed really different from a lot of the other things that we've been reading recently. I also got A Curse of Blood and Wolves, and I do like how this book has a spice warning in the book. A dark and steamy fairy tale reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood. Apparently this one is perfect for romantasy readers and lover of spicy books. I thought I would probably do this one on my own personal TBR. However, if you have a particular interest of doing this one as a part of Panic at the Book Club, then please feel free to let me know. As some of you are aware, I took some time off in May. I had my hen party, I went travelling in my van with my partner, and I walked specifically to go to this adorable, cute cafe bookstore where I got these beautiful books. Join me on a 2-mile hike to the most adorable bookstore cafe in the Peak District. Now, I could not leave without these 3 books. I got Wuthering Heights, The Art of War, and Romeo and Juliet. But look at those covers. Look at these edges. How stunning are those? That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining. And if you liked this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It is always appreciated. And I will see you next month. Bye.